Welcome to Right Now, the official podcast of the I94 West Chamber of Commerce, brought to you by Clear Simple Business. I'm Greg Anzels.
I'm Sarah Becker.
And I'm Will McLeod on the controls.
Welcome to podcast, or actually now, Sarah, it's a vidcast number 3. In the hockey world, that'd be a hat trick. We've got a great show for you today. We've got a special guest that we're going to introduce here in a couple of minutes. And we, of course, are coming to you live from the Chamber office in downtown Rogers at the global headquarters of Rogers Printing and Promotional. Thanks for joining us. It's been a busy week already, Sarah.
It has been really busy. I'm kind of shocked at how much I've done, both on the business side, and I even got to do some landscaping outside because the weather's been gorgeous.
Weather's been fabulous. Everyone's out and about getting ready for the big 4th of July weekend, which we'll talk about. This third podcast will be our last. We're going to take a couple week break, and then come back in mid-July again. So everyone's going to be out and about at cabins and lakes and having a good time over the 4th of July. But it has been an extremely busy week. Just this morning here at the Chamber office, Amy Valek from J&B Group, of course, that awesome company up in St. Michael. Of course, the No Name Steaks and all the great brands that J&B has. Amy came down and we hosted the Circle of Excellence Awards. And what a morning it was. Excellence in Innovation Award went to Ryan Hauser from Minnesota Office Furniture, located in Maple Grove. The Excellence in Leadership Award, that went to Aaron Mueller, who offices actually right across the parking lot from the Chamber office here at Design Tree Engineering and Land Surveying. Excellence in Community went to Jamie Stedman up in Albertville at the Millennium Dance Company. And what a great story Jamie has about building her business and using the community in terms of giving back. Wow, really inspirational story for that Excellence in Community Award. Rob Stark, who we're all familiar with, very active in the Chamber. He's chairing our annual celebration coming up in December, and he's located in Buffalo with Edward Jones, Sarah, and he won the Business Person of the Year, and I know you know Rob.
Yes. Had many meetings with him. He is wonderful.
The Young Professional of the Year went to Alec Plaisted from the Plaisted Companies up in Elk River. And I like to talk about that business because you see those big commercial semis cruising by, hauling rock and gravel and sand. They have an absolutely enormous operation up there on the commercial side. But what I really love about that is going up there on weekends when I need mulch and I need rock to do landscaping around the house. They have everything you need from a residential standpoint as well. And they just, within the last month, Sarah, finished an outdoor patio area where you can kind of go check out the stone you want for a fireplace or a outdoor kitchen or things like that. And it is super, super nice.
Nice. I might have to check them out this weekend because I do have quite a bit more landscaping to do. And that would be helpful to be able to see it first, not just try and make it up as I go, which
Absolutely.
is what I tend to do.
Yep. Well, they'll help you up there.
Sweet.
And congratulations again to Alec as a Young Professional of the Year. We also recognized Cross for their work in the nonprofit area. So congratulations to that organization. We talked about them last week a little bit. And then kind of a really fun part of the Circle of Excellence ceremony this morning was recognizing the high school seniors who are going on to do great things that received scholarships from the Chamber of Commerce. And Sarah, I know you've been involved in selecting those scholarship recipients in the past.
Yes. The last 2 years I've been on that committee, and I will say that it is a huge honor for these 5 individuals because it is a strong group of applicants that we get, and it's a good 30 to 40 that we get, I think. So to be in the top 5, huge congratulations to these folks.
And they're very well-rounded, both academically, in the community, extracurricular activities. It's amazing, their stories. And the 5 recipients, we're going to name them here quickly. Hannah Chrisman from St. Michael, Albertville. Braden Anderson from Rogers, Megan Copeland from St. Michael, Albertville, Callie Nordberg from St. Michael, Albertville, and Jane Martin from St. Michael, Albertville. There's a little bit of a theme there. So if you're listening to the podcast and you have a junior in high school this year, going to be a senior, we love St. Michael, Albertville, but we love all of our chamber communities. So we would highly encourage others to get involved in this great scholarship opportunity.
Yes, definitely. We need to spread the love a bit more, and that just is a testament, I'm assuming, to the teachers at that school and them being looped in with the chamber and the opportunity, because we did get a high number of applications submitted from St. Michael.
Really good stuff. So it was a fun morning. And of course, now today we have the podcast. So it's been a busy week is kind of the theme of the open of the show here today. And I want to talk a little bit about yesterday as we start to introduce our special guest for today. Our chamber ambassadors, which is a great group of chamber members that go out to chamber member businesses, introduce themselves, have ribbon cuttings. We have a breakfast club. We have a lunch bunch. We have a beverages and bites in the afternoons, and we've got the coffee and conversation. So as a chamber, we love to get out to chamber member businesses, support them, and keep those restaurants thriving. So we went over to Granite City yesterday, and we had a good turnout. We actually had these signs made. I don't know if we can get it on camera for the vidcast that Will's got us doing now. Shout out to Will on the controls there. And support local business. So the committee decided they were going to make signs, and as we go out and have lunch and beverages someplace, we're going to bring our signs to make sure that everyone in the community sees the chamber actively involved, and we recognize the fact there's a lot of local businesses we really want to support. We always want to support them, but I think now more than ever, Granite City included there. Just a shout out to some of the folks that made it over there yesterday. Steve Shrunk from Diamond Realty, John O'Donohue from Premier Power Maintenance, Nick Kristoff from Thrivent. He's really involved. I always see him out and about. Arlene from Total Interiors, great ambassador for the chamber. Barb Carlson from Rapid Refill and Promotions over in New Hope. Bill McMullen from Money Mailers, super involved in the chamber, and Jared from Card Connect. We had a fun time, and we like to think chamber first. It was kind of the theme of this initiative to get out, bring our signs, and just as people are driving by, maybe thinking about stopping and having lunch, they're going to see a sign and say, hey, I should pull into Granite City because it's a local business and we want to support that. So
right, and that's the first lunch bunch that you had that was in person since March, I believe, right? Since everything happened, yeah.
Right.
So that's good to know that it's shifting back to the in-person versus the virtual.
It really is, and they had a great crowd over there yesterday. And as we bring in our special guest for today, we had a great lunch. We had a really good crowd with our group, but then with the restaurant was busy, which is super fun to see after driving by empty parking lots for so long. So
right. So welcome, Pete. So Pete from Granite City is joining us. Thanks so much for joining us and for the great experience that Greg and the other chamber members had yesterday. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. So I'm guessing you have had a little bit different experience with kind of the whole COVID pandemic and the ups and downs that it's brought to the restaurant industry. So what has that been like for you the last 3-4 months?
Well, it's certainly been challenging, no doubt. I guess for me personally, I've been fortunate enough to be able to work the entire time. However, for all the hourly staff, there was a pretty large window of time there, about, 10 weeks roughly, where pretty much all of them were out on furlough. So that was definitely a challenge just operating the entire facility. We were exclusively doing to go during that whole time frame. So it was just myself and 5 of the other managers that were coming in, working 6-day weeks pretty much every week, and the days got long. They were 12 to 14-hour days, but we got through it, and we're coming back now, and hopefully we'll be at 100% capacity again soon.
Right, right. So what does it look like now at the restaurant? Like what changes have you made? What would your guests expect when they come in?
Uh, well, some of the challenges, I guess, is that we faced is for one is obviously we have to change what we're doing as far as sanitation. We've brought in a couple of different cleaning supply chemicals through Ecolab. Social distancing obviously is another one of the challenges. We've kind of marked that out on the floors in the host stand area and spaced out tables accordingly because we're only able to seat up to a 50% capacity currently inside the building. But thankfully, we are able to seat inside the building as outside was the only thing that was available initially for us. So we're happy to be able to offer inside dining at this point as well. Um, the brunch that we do every Sunday has posed some challenges too, because obviously we can't just have a bunch of people coming through a brunch line anymore and handling the same utensils. So we're going to be revamping that this coming week here, actually, and having the staff serve the brunch to guests behind a barrier. So that way uh, they'll still get what they want, but it's only being handled by somebody with mask and gloves at that point. Beyond that, obviously, sales have been a challenge for us. It's certainly something that I'm sure a lot of businesses are going through, and I greatly appreciate you guys coming in and supporting us the other day. Um, there are some benefits, though, I would also say that have come out of it. I mean, something that is simple as hand washing. I mean, we're definitely getting the staff to do that more frequently. Granted, that's always been a focus, but cleanliness at this point is obviously paramount. We've also had the opportunity to improve a lot of our to-go practices, just because that's exclusively what we were working off of for a given period of time. So we've revamped a lot of the containers that we're utilizing and processes as far as how we take orders and how we close them out with the point of sale system. So we've made upgrades to our software there as well. So there's been some good things that have come out of it. Obviously, a lot of challenges, and I'm sure we're still in for a few more. But as far as what it would look like today for a guest when they come into our facility, once again, the social distancing thing, 6 feet apart. Reservations would be required for guests. If somebody does come in, however, say it's a party of two or a party of four, we're certainly going to accommodate that group on the spot, but we're just going to need to get their information from them, just their name and phone number. We've put up booth dividers in the facility. We are able, like I said, only to seat up to 50% capacity, and right now, per state law, a maximum of 6 people per table. But larger groups can be accommodated. We can put them at tables that are next to each other within a 6 feet range. So we're doing everything we can to try and accommodate as many people as we possibly can.
Wow, it sounds a little exhausting, but it's great that you're able to find some benefits out of it. I think it's very easy to focus on the struggles and the challenges, but sometimes these struggles and challenges give us great opportunity to find new ways of doing things, and sometimes those new ways end up being better or easier or more efficient. So it's great that you're able to spend time focusing on that and making adjustments, because now as you start getting up to 100%, life will be a little easier in those areas. And so I also have a question, because I've seen some things on Facebook with how people, as places are reopening, people encouraging people to treat people at restaurants that, a little nicer. They've been going through a lot. And so do you have any advice for non-restaurant people, like people who haven't been in the midst of everything going on as they're going back to restaurants?
Um, I would just say for people that don't really know or non-restaurant individuals, as referred to, I would just say be a little bit patient. A lot of staff Granted, they've been in this industry for a long time, but they've also been out for a good amount of time. So it takes a little while for staff to get kind of reacclimated. Not to mention, there are a lot of processes that have changed throughout this whole ordeal that we're required to wear the mask. We're wearing gloves, frequent hand washing, frequent glove changes. So things at times may take a little bit longer because they're not really allowed to multitask on a level that they're used to, meaning normally a server has a 3 or 4 table section where when they go out into the dining room they handle all those tables at the same time. Right now we can't be going table to table to table, so once you go to one table you need to go in the back, change your gloves, wash your hands, uh, maybe run some food or get some beverages and bring those out, and then you can go to a different table. But it just in an effort to be as sanitary as possible right now, it things do take a little bit longer at times just because they're not able to multitask like they're able to. In addition to that, we are rolling a new menu right now. A lot of new promotional things coming up right around the corner. So uh, there's a lot that they're kind of taking in, is what I'm saying at this point. So I guess just holding a little bit of patience. It's not quite as fast, maybe, as what it could be in the past, but we're going to get back to where things were in a short period of time, hopefully, assuming we are able to open up to 100% in the near future.
Right, I think patience is a big thing. And I hadn't even considered the fact that they normally go from table to table to check on everyone, and now they have to be more on a single serve basis. So that obviously right there is going to take a little more time. So keeping that in mind, that the new regulations are forcing the servers to work in a different way that may not be the most efficient way for the guest. And so patience, everyone's been going through a lot, so keep that in mind.
Well, I have to, Sarah, go back. Of course, we're on here with Pete Von Bank from Granite City, for those of you that might just be joining. But I have to go back to the buffet because I'll tell you what, Granite City has one of the best Sunday buffets, if not the best, in town. So if people haven't been over there, you mentioned the new menu. We had a great lunch yesterday. I'm a big fan of the growlers you can bring in and fill those up. I know they do that regularly with some of their fine beer over there. I'm just kind of curious, Pete, what you might be hearing or thinking is going to be the return to 100%. And I know there's no crystal ball, but what's kind of your sense of, as things have been progressing, when we might see a complete reopen, 100% capacity indoors and outdoors?
Yeah, I guess I no, like I said, nobody has a crystal ball, and nobody knows exactly when we're going to reopen to 100% capacity. The sooner the better, in my mind. But obviously, we want to keep the safety of everyone, both the guest and our staff, at the forefront of our minds. So uh, we definitely want to do it right when it actually happens. It is a little concerning seeing some of the other states seeing the increases as far as cases. Luckily, Minnesota is actually seems to be trending in the correct direction, or more contained than most other states. So I'm optimistic that hopefully within the next 30 to 60 days be at 100% capacity here.
That sounds great. And before we let you go, just wanted to follow up and have you tell a little bit of the history of Granite City's story. It's kind of the short version, but Minnesota owned and operated company, right? So let's just talk a minute or two about the history. We've talked about where you are today and all the great things that are happening in all locations, but specifically at the Maple Grove location. But there's a good story behind the Granite City um, franchise.
I think I might have lost you here. I caught about half of what you're asking about the history of Granite City as far as where we
Yeah,
came from. I mean, we
yeah.
started in 1999. Those were our roots, and we've actually got our founder and president back involved with the company. Now that we're held under Barbecue Holdings, which is a concept that owns Famous Dave's. So we're going through an entire relaunch right now. Like I said, we just launched a new menu here the other day. Uh, 32 new menu items going on there. We are condensing down to some of the old favorite items that our guests have always loved in the past. Getting back to our roots as far as how we take care of tables, as far as hospitality, having fun while you're at work, giving people a reason to come here as far as promotions. There's a lot of good stuff that's on the docket here for the next 2 to 3 months. So I would highly encourage anybody that hasn't been in to come give us another try if you haven't been here in a while. And I'm pretty certain you'll be pleased with your experience.
Well, I'm hoping maybe you can't tell us and you can't give us a little precursor to what's going back on the menu, but I'll tell you that firecracker shrimp was one of my all-time favorites. So thank you for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes. Thank you for joining. And
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
all right, I look forward to all the Mug Club promotions, beer tappings, and everything that Granite City has that makes it one of the best in the area.
Well, we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
That's Pete Von Bank from Granite City. Thanks for joining us. And Sarah, he's got a lot going on over there, and handling the challenge as well. And I love Granite City. I've been a customer over there for they've been open for probably over a decade, at least, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
at least.
the older I get, the less I remember. But I think it's got to be at least a decade there. And I remember that original menu that Pete was referring to there. So what a great guest.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm happy he joined. And yeah, we used this pre-kids because kids kind of put a damper on the going out to restaurants. But Granite City was one of our top locations, and we never missed a beer tapping back in the day.
Well,
Pre-kids.
we probably tripped over each other filling our growlers back in the day, as they say. But we're going to move into some other updates in and around the I94 chamber footprint. One of the hot topics these days is the traffic, and we did a little bit of background on the traffic, and these projects basically, as everyone knows, kind of heading east and west, as they call it. I always think it's north and south, but it's technically it's east and west. Those projects are in full swing right now, and it's taking 4 lanes down to 1 in certain directions, and it's backing things up. So it sounds like it's going to wrap up in November, at least this stretch of construction. So I was looking at some of the maps here recently, and I think it's a much needed change. But I'll tell you what, if you miss that exit opportunity, if you live in Maple Grove or you have to make that decision, you need to make that decision in Rogers, like we've talked about. And it sounds like that's going to be the case at least through November when they wrap up that project. So just putting a timeline on that one.
Yes, and keeping in mind which exit and entrance ramps are closed, because on my way to the gym, I was going to take Maple Grove Parkway 94 to Weaver Lake Road, and that was closed. So keep an eye on those changes, because they're going to be happening throughout the summer.
Arlene from Total Interiors missed the same exit yesterday on the way to Granite City.
Yep. See, it's not just me.
Right, and wound up putting a few extra miles on her car, but hey, gas is cheap, right?
Yep.
We got notice this week that the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development is overseeing a small business relief grant program, which was approved by the Minnesota State Legislature just a short time ago. It's making $10,000 grants available to owned and operated businesses that can demonstrate financial hardship as a result of this pandemic. There's a total, Sarah, of $60.3 million available for grants. And they're going to be available for application through March 1st. So we'll have this podcast or this video cast, right, Will? This is a video cast. He keeps reminding me. This is no longer a podcast. It's a video cast.
Vidcast.
It's a vidcast. You're right. They're going to be available through March 1st.
So you can apply until July 2nd.
Correct. Yep.
But it
Oh, I'm sorry. I had the wrong date. Thanks for the correction on
Yes.
that. Thanks for the correction. Expenses that have occurred since March 1st. I apologize. See? I got it right, though.
You got it.
With the help of
we
you.
got it. Well,
Good job. Teamwork. Thursday, July 2nd is the deadline at 5 o'clock, and those will be distributed randomly. mn.gov is the website if you're interested in that, and I think a lot of small businesses will be interested in a $10,000 grant with no repayment required.
Yes,
So,
I actually applied for that grant this morning. So it's a pretty quick, intuitive process. I'd say set aside 15 minutes and then make sure you have your information for the number of employees you had and your income revenue from March to May of 2019 and then March to May
sure,
of 2020.
makes sense. I'm just glad we got those dates corrected for everybody.
Yes, yes. You don't have until March 1st of this year.
We love to talk about our members. The member mentions this week, folks that have either renewed or joined the chamber. Samantha Severson from Benedictine Senior Living in Osseo. I hope I'm getting that right. My notes here are out. But Samantha Severson from Benedictine Living joined, as well as Alexander Horn from Mosquito Control renewed his membership. So thank you to both of those members for being great partners and believers in all the awesome things we're doing here at the I94 West Chamber of Commerce. I also have to give a shout out to our sponsors as well, because without their support, a lot of the things that we do wouldn't be possible. The Blue 42 Agency in Maple Grove. We've talked about the Rogers Printing and Promotional. Roger's a great guy, very generous with the chamber. J&B Group, we talked about J&B earlier. Franklin Outdoor Advertising is a proud premier sponsor of the chamber, Chris Barta. And over there in Hamel, Farmers State Bank, and also FedEx Ground. I know Chad Klein still owes me a phone call from about 4 weeks ago. I'm not taking it personally because
It's not like he's busy over there.
I know
or
how
anything.
busy they are, Sarah. We've talked about they're shipping more out of that location during these months than they do during the holiday months. So I know Chad had a boat on the St. Croix, and I bet it's still in storage.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be this summer. He's going to be able to get it out much, unfortunately.
Thank you, FedEx Ground, for your support of the Chamber of Commerce. And Sarah, now we get to talk a little bit about you and clear, simple business and all the great things you do for clients on a regular basis. And how's the last few weeks been going? And is business happening and progressing for you?
Yeah, the last few weeks. So to be totally honest, this pandemic time has not been the greatest for Clear Simple Business. Business consultants, a lot of businesses are either shut down or really focused on maintaining their own people. So a lot of places don't have the budget for business consultants, but I can see the interest picking up and the networking is starting to pay off, and I'm having a lot more conversations with different folks. And since we were talking about restaurants today, I wanted to explain explain one of the ways that I talk about process with business owners. So it has a lot to do with restaurants, because restaurants, it's very easy to see the process because it's a very physical process. So if you think of like a Chipotle or a Subway, I usually like Chipotle because then maybe they'll start giving me free burritos for life or something if I keep it up. But so you can see how it's laid out where it makes sense. Here's the burritos, the tacos, the meat, the beans and rice, and you have everything set up. Everyone, you know exactly which person is going to be asking you, do you want beans and rice, or what kind of salsa do you want? And then you can see the people in the back where the chicken runs out and right away that chicken is getting refilled. And so it's very easy to see the processes within restaurants because it's that physical layout, so you can physically see it. Now, when you go into an office space, most of the processes are digital. They're on the computers, and you can't really
They're
see.
invisible.
They're invisible.
Right.
And so what happens, so if we take the Chipotle example, what ends up happening is you have a tortilla over here, tortillas over here, the taco shells over here, and then the chicken is in 5 different places, and you kind of get the picture where things aren't lined up in that correct order. And you don't have the person in back who's preparing. The person in back is waiting for the chicken to run out, and then they're going to start to marinate the chicken. And then they're going to cut it up. So you can just imagine how frustrated the customers would get at a Chipotle if they were set up this way. And the fun part too about a lot of the processes I see within organizations is that not only are all those necessary items spread out and kind of in a chaotic way, but there's random, you have like the salsas and there's random like strawberries and cherries and things that have nothing to do with building a burrito inside of that process. And so that's what I see a lot when I go into organizations and actually help them see how everything's laid out and how it's going. So if you're an organization that maybe right now has some extra time, my first advice would be start actually mapping out your processes and use those swim lanes. So if you have kind of that mapping tool, those swim lanes are the horizontal ones where they would be the different departments, because a lot of times you'll see those jumps between the different departments and you'll be able to see kind of that disorder within the process. So you'll be able to see that invisible process that's happening. And so that's my
Great
clear,
great
simple
analogy, Sarah. And you're exactly right. I love the burrito analogy because, well, who doesn't love burritos? I think Will might have had one for lunch today over at Guadalajara. But, in this day and age, right, businesses are trying to figure out who they are again in terms of staffing, and process is part of that. Some are going to have to reinvent themselves. They've lost customers. So you're right. Maybe the fixings they had on the burrito at one point in time aren't going to be back because of what's going on in the world. But being able to figure that out, I can speak to working with Sarah on various projects here at the Chamber. And if you're looking for somebody to come in, evaluate what you have going, improve your process, reach out to Sarah at Clear Simple Business. Before we wrap up, again, this is our last vidcast until after the holidays. I know Will's taking it to the streets. He's loading up the car, kind of National Lampoon's Vacation style, and taking a trip across the country. So he's excited to do that, and I'm kind of excited to head to Lake Vermilion. And Sarah, what do you have going as we look towards the kind of the midpoint of summer already? It's crazy to know it's July 4th already.
I know. I'm always excited for July 4th, but then also a little sad because then it's halfway through the summer. But I plan on heading up. My parents have a cabin up by Alexandria. So next Tuesday, I believe the kids and I will head up. My husband still has to work. He has Friday off. We've been doing a lot of work on the house. We're getting new windows delivered on Tuesday. So he's hoping to put those in as soon as possible, but he only has Friday off. And if it was up to him, he would probably spend all weekend working on the house. But I've been nudging and kind of encouraging him that this is a good opportunity to take a break. And so how about all day on Friday, he can work on it, and then he can come join us at the cabin. I believe my brother is also going to be up at the cabin, and he usually gets Minnesota fireworks.
Yeah. Right.
So.
Well, the fireworks are certainly a fun part of the 4th. And Will and I were talking earlier about just kind of the, this midsummer when people get on the road and get in cars and start traveling. I'm going to ride my motorcycle up to Lake Vermilion. I can't wait because, it's kind of that, it kind of harkens back to the day as of, the old Main Street USAs. And I just I'm not a freeway driver,
Yeah,
right,
how
on the
long does
motorcycle. I take the old 61 up there and I pass through all these towns that are sort of forgotten about almost. And it's like a trip back in time in some ways, and a little bit of a slice of Americana, and especially with this pandemic, an opportunity to stop in and, buy breakfast at the little diner. And I know Will and I were talking about a certain part of the country he's heading to that it's kind of that same feeling of, celebrate the country and all the great things that are happening, and really get out and support local businesses wherever you are this 4th of July. So,
Yeah, somebody told me that they carved some presidents into the side of a mountain. So, so I'm gonna go try to find out where that is.
well, I would say to everybody, have a great and happy 4th of July. Thanks for joining us, and think Chamber first in everything you do this summer. Support the businesses that support the Chamber. We're all in this together. There's no better group to get referrals from, to find a person to fix your car, to come out and provide video and services that Will does through Cloud Media. There's so many great people involved with this Chamber, and I really feel like it's a good housekeeping seal of approval, so to speak. If you get a referral from someone within the Chamber, they're a trusted partner and they're going to do a good job for you. So think Chamber first. Unless Will has anything to add before we sign off for the long holiday week.
He was working too hard this week on.
We challenged him. we challenged him with he had 5 cameras. We said you got to bump up your game, Will. Let's get 6 in here this week. So I think I think he's got a drone flying around in here somewhere taking photos of us. But
I think that's called Carl.
this has been vidcast number 3. It's been a lot of fun as usual. Thanks again to our friend over at Granite City, Pete Von Bank, for joining us. And as always, thanks for listening. Until next time, remember, it's all out there. It's just up to you to go get it
Right now.